So here we go. It's starting to stream.
And we will let it sit about 5 more minutes before we start going at
It
least.
it is warm and comfortable. That
Feels good.
stream. Hey, I see us on the
I
Twitching.
tell you what, dude.
All
So
right.
far everything's working. It's crazy.
Hi. I'm Skeeter Green. That's Zach Glazer. We're going to
That's
be
me.
with you in about 4 minutes.
Yep.
We just wanted to get this up and running and see if we could do it.
And if you are there and you are signed up for this, you got a link to the Zoom chat where we'll actually be able to answer questions, and you have you talk and etc. for like more of a Q&A style from an actual seminar, because we have the tools, we just don't know how to use them, but we'll find out.
Man, so the best thing about this seminar is it is absolutely going to show you that anyone can pull this off.
Welcome, Luke. Luke Harmon just showed up in our attendees. Thank you. Welcome, Luke. Twitch is not working yet, according to.
Yeah, it is. I can see it right now.
All right.
I just saw me salute myself.
Well, look at you.
So,
It's
yeah,
the shine off your head.
I'm sure it is. Um, hey, yeah, no, people in the chat are telling me, yeah, it is slightly delayed. But then again, so are we.
Welcome, Perry. I see you just showed up there.
Yeah, everybody, come on in. Um, we had a lot of help from our friends at Wizards
Wizards
of
of
the
the Couch.
Couch. I'm trying to do something and I'm not good at it. So there we go. Uh, yeah, that's the little symbol for Wizards of the Couch. Give them some love because those guys are fantastic. I got to be a guest on their show one time, and it was it was a lot of fun. I
They
got to
invited me to be on their monster guest one, but it was like right when we run our shitty show.
yeah.
Pardon
Uh,
language.
no, I got to. Hey, Zach.
Yes.
Uh, here are the rules. So right now, this is the Wikipedia uh, definition of PG-13 and what we can and cannot say. So it is streaming live. We promised um, all the fine folks at GaryCon that we would make this a PG-13 show, which means I get one strategically placed F bomb.
He gets one.
Pay attention, because it's coming. You'll never know when it's happening.
Skeeter and I, we run a show about every week. Some days on Tuesdays, and some days on Thursdays, and some days no none. But we do it on Facebook Live, and we don't do it that way because that way we don't get censored. And so
Yeah.
we we do that. And one of the problems that Skeeter and I have is that we know about everybody in like RPGs up to about the Wizards of the Coast guys. We only know what kind of them tangentially, but everybody in the smaller press stuff we know pretty well. So we drop a lot of insider jokes and we say things we shouldn't say. So it doesn't stay recorded. So that's why we use that one. So
Yeah.
hey, welcome, Cheese.
That was a very bizarre segue. Uh,
No, it was, but Cheese just came in. That's the name on the panel. I love it.
oh, awesome. Cool. Yeah, we'll give it a couple of minutes
Yeah.
for everybody who has come in early and is listening to us ramble on. This is pretty much what the seminar is going to be like.
Yep.
I mean, there. This is not your professor's seminar. This is two guys that dug ditches proverbially in the RPG world, and we are going to tell you how to dig a ditch better than we did.
Yeah, we want you to you have the actual tools to do it correctly rather than use your hands, because we both did
Yeah,
it. And we'll go over our history with this in a little bit, but so you can see how unlegit we are. And we'll
and then we'll have to honestly give Zach's pedigree because it's pretty impressive at this point
well, you've been there longer.
and accomplished less.
Yeah, Discord is working. Yeah. Typically, you need a shovel and a pick. Yeah, well, we only had one.
Yeah. So we get either a shovel or a pick. So that is how skilled we are. All right. So
Give a few more
I'm.
minutes and we'll start.
Oh yeah. No. Hey, there's 18 people watching us, which is redonkulous.
Wow. If only we had this much for our regular show. Oh wait, we wouldn't want that because then people would find out what we
Hey.
think.
Yeah. See this? This is a T-shirt of our actual show.
Show them the back. Show them the back.
This is even better. Yeah. So, this was a gift from my mother. So figure that out.
Yeah, I think that's awesome.
Just for a tidbit, for people, an advanced tidbit. This fine looking item right here, this Tomb of Horrors sheet. This is an actual relic from GaryCon. It
GaryCon
used to,
9.
yeah, used to hang in the halls, and now it hangs in my office. That's all I'm going to say about that.
All right. So, well, okay. I think that we can go ahead and get the basic start. I'm Zach Glazer, and with me is the technical champion of the world, Mr. Skeeter Green.
I was able to stream a video to Twitch with much help from my friends at Wizards of the Couch. So
Yeah.
Zach is lying to you already.
We're super happy to have everybody here. People are starting to show up in the in our attendee list. It says Ruxt LLC. Welcome, Ruxt. And we actually have a a fairly unique pedigree between the two of us, and that's why we're hosting this. We mostly want to make sure we go over kind of who we are for a very short period of time. That will take 5 minutes, and then and then we want to answer questions about small press publishing and things to do that we have learned that what not to do the hard way. And like, for instance, box sets. I know more about that than any human alive, and I feel in terms of like small press kind of things, and I want to dissuade all of you from doing so.
I don't know if you know more about it than any human alive.
About doing it as a one-man machine?
Yes,
I do.
doing it by yourself, which is just foolhardy.
It was twice.
But they're fine. You have one. Show them. Show them.
Well, I'll show it again, but yeah.
Show off your product, mister. Yeah, that's a fatty box set right there, and they're packed.
Yeah, it had 96 individual components, and so we'll talk about that.
That's just foolish.
More people coming in, Mr. Robert Nemeth. Welcome.
Hello, everybody coming in.
All right, let's give it like a couple more minutes, just so then we'll.
Yeah. Yeah, I am not in a rush. We normally do this for an hour, and these two yahoos set me up for an hour and a half, so we got plenty of time.
Yes, we do.
The fact that we even got on Twitch without the interwebs blowing up
is amazing.
I already call this a win.
We feel pretty special about it.
Yeah.
And for the best part is Skeeter's doing most of the work. This has been a gift to me,
which is super weird. Because I don't know how to do anything.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, I literally pushed a button that said start streaming. And the fact that it didn't cause me to pee myself makes me pretty happy. And that qualifies under the PG-13 banner. I looked it up. I can talk about peeing.
Because as we're standing here, one more time, you should go over he's allowed to have one what? You're allowed to have one what?
All right. So there is the banner. Snippets of language that go beyond polite conversation are permitted in G-rated films, but no stronger words are present. There are several exceptional cases in which PG-13 rated films contain multiple occurrences of the word F-U-C-K. And that doesn't count as one of my uses. Adventures in Babysitting uses it twice in the same scene.
So this is the
Uh,
kind of bold research we do on everybody's behalf.
well, yeah, okay. So there's a movie called Gunner Palace, a documentary about the Second Gulf War that has 42 uses of that. Well,
Well,
challenge
hold Skeeter's
accepted.
drink.
Yeah, hold my bad language.
Okay. I believe that we can go ahead and get started, Mr. Green.
All right, let's do it, man.
Let's start with you. Who are you, Skeeter Green? Well, first of all, what are we doing, and who are you?
This is a seminar that I thought about doing and performed once at the North Texas RPG Con to a packed house of about 8 people in an auditorium, which was actually a lot of fun and it had a huge upside net gain. So, anyway, I am Skeeter Green. My company is Skeeter Green Productions. It's the SGP logo on the shield right there. Um, Myself and a bunch of friends and co-authors were all doing Kickstarters last year at about the same time. And we kind of pooled our collective knowledge since none of us had really done it on our own in such a small press way. And we compared notes and like, hey, did you think about doing this? What did you do when this came up? What, you know, so we compiled a bunch of that information, and I got some very good advice to ask other people who have done more Kickstarters. And it was extremely helpful. And I sat around and I thought, well, what about the people who are brand new to RPG publishing? They may not, I mean, they certainly don't know what they don't know. So what the seminar started out to be was an encouragement that you can ask people questions. You can, uh, it's hard to ask Zach questions at conventions because he's running around like a social butterfly all the time. I don't shut up. So I am just talking. Sometimes there's not even people you can see there because I just have the voices in my head and I'm having a conversation. Um, but yeah, it's where I'm at. I've been in RPG publishing for 19 years. And yes, I know that's hard to believe because I have accomplished so little.
That was like what second edition was doing.
Yeah, yeah, no.
Oh boy,
So
almost
the first paid check I got was for an
$6.
what it was like 587 or something like that. But it was for a book that was coming out new for third edition. They were they were on the cutting edge of third edition stuff, and it was for some spells. Bastion Press, Spells and Magic. That was my first paid uh, job, and yeah, I really haven't gotten much higher up the food chain than that. I've met a lot of people and talked to a lot of people, so I have some accumulated knowledge, none of which that I use for myself. I consistently do everything the hard way. Um, but that was uh, so my project last year was Crypt of the Science Wizard, and I did that for fifth edition, and I did it for Swords and Wizardry. And I learned a lot of how to use Kickstarter, what to do, what not to do. Um, and I'm actually releasing Crypt of the Science Wizard for DCC as soon as it gets converted and I get the new art in. So I am actually walking the walk and doing what we're preaching right now. So we are going to open up the chats to get some questions after we ramble for a while to see if there are specific questions people want to ask. And there are there are a lot of questions we can't answer because it's very personal to the people running their company and what kind of projects you want to do, but
But
we'll get into that later.
we encourage you though, after this is done, if you have something very specific, we'll get you some ways to get in touch with us we can get you better answers. I can't always answer right away, but I do like to answer the questions for everybody. I was not around since third edition. My name is Zach Glazer. I'm currently the COO of Frog God Games. We produce Rap and Athic, and we produce the Swords and Wizardry, the entire line. Matt Finch is one of the people there who is incredibly smart and incredibly cool. I'm the guy who makes sure that Matt Finch's stuff gets out the door. But where did I start? Well, I was a teacher and I hated it. I worked for the government. I hated that too. And decided I wanted to do something in gaming. And I thought, well, Kickstarter just started. And I thought, I'm going to make a module. And my goal was to make a small module like this. But what I made was a box set like this. That's the one I made. Whisper and Venom. It was 2.5 inches deep. It had 96 individual components. So I started big. And I'm not recommending that to anybody. That's part of the reason why I'm here is to let everybody know that if you start out, you better have the time commitment that you know you can get done. Because when I finished the Kickstarter, I picked up a book and I learned how to do InDesign. And I did my entire layout. I did everything from beginning to end to do it. And what I learned after the fact was that there are so many people who know so many things that can make the whole process so much better. And some of the things are just as little as like, it is worth $200 to have someone do X rather than try to do it yourself for 18, 20, 30 hours. Someone can do in 2. And we'll talk about that a little bit. But I made Whisper and Venom, and I got nominated for 2 Ennies, and Paizo robbed me of my Ennie. I felt just ruined by it. Paizo and WizKids.
Goliath crushed David in this case.
And then I did a couple smaller modules like this one. And these I did pre-order. I didn't do those on Kickstarter or anything. And they were a lot of fun to do. But, I was dumb enough to do, I know, I'll do another box set. And I did. And I did it called Death and Taxes. I got nominated for 2 Ennies for that as well. Got totally beat both times.
Again by Paizo, I'm sure.
Again by Paizo. Shakes fist. But I'll be honest, it's been a great time. And after that, Frog God Games offered me to become a partner there. And so I do a lot of work. We claim we're medium-sized, but we'll see. But it's I work pretty much full-time in RPGs now. I do everything. For me, I don't do a lot of writing. I think I have not put pen to paper except for once in 3 years, but I do almost all the back-end production work. Like I organize everything. I don't draw any maps, but damn it, I organize the maps.
Zach's all about that back end.
It's all about the back end stuff to make sure that
that's still PG-13. I'm claiming that as PG-13.
It is PG-13.
Okay.
But no, so, and I have a pretty broad understanding. I'm not the expert anywhere, but I have a pretty broad understanding on how to make legal comment under PG-12 rules. No, I have a pretty broad understanding of how things go from idea to production. And like now I have, for bigger projects, I have a pretty good understanding of how it gets. We just did the Swords and Wizardry box set Kickstarter for Frog God Games, and I'm doing the organization to get that to the printer in China. And so I understand how to go from Matt Finch's, hey, I have an idea, to yesterday just typing up the finals to accept the quotes from the printer in China. So I've seen a lot of levels of it, and I'm a big believer, and Skeeter has been part of my belief in this, is that we share. Because everybody who wants to make something does much better when we can ask each other, and we're a friendly hobby. We're not competitors at this level. We aren't like Paizo and Wizards. We're not at the point where that's even a consideration. The more that gets produced, the better it gets produced for what the purpose is, the better we all are. And I really believe that. And I know Skeeter does too.
Hi, John. Sorry.
Hey, more people coming in. Welcome, everybody.
Yeah.
That is who I am. That is who he is.
Oh.
And so let's talk a little bit about you Crypto Science Wizard, Skeeter. What are you working on right now?
No, I don't want to talk about that right this second.
Okay.
What I want to do is the way I started off the seminar at North Texas last year was by telling people It was a little bit of a cold splash of water. At some point, whatever product you're working on, you are going to come to the fork in the road where you have to decide if this is an art project that you love, or is this a project that you want to make money on? And it doesn't always have to be that black and white. It doesn't always have to be that severe, but there are points where you have to decide, do I want this to be cool or do I want this to be financially profitable? And that's what I wanted to ask Zach right now. When he made his box sets, that was a decision early on. I assume you had to decide which way you're going to go.
Um,
And what
yeah,
was your
I'll talk about
thought?
that real quick. And someone just mentioned Jeff Talanian, and I want to say Jeff Talanian is the reason I have a box set, and yeah, I blame him for it every day. No, but when I first did it, because I didn't think I wanted to do this full time, but I wanted it to be noticed. One of the
Yeah.
hardest parts of doing any kind of small publishing is having, there's so much going on all the time. And
Distribution is tough.
it is tough. And even with Frog God, we worry about that all the time. We have a significant loyal customer base that we rely on, and we want to make sure they're happy all the time. But we want to expand that, and expanding that gets very, very hard. And so to get notice, I thought the best way to do it.
Can I have an endorsement?
Yes, go ahead. No,
No,
I mean,
that's
the best way. I thought the best way to get noticed was to make a box set and to make it a big splash. And I worked very, very hard for months before the Kickstarter to get to that point. And my goal was to not get a divorce, which meant I had to break even. And so that was my goal, and that's where I went from that. And then I sold enough box sets and got enough attention from it that I decided to do another small module and was enjoying it, and et cetera. So it was not I'm going to make a lot of profit on the first one at all. It was just I was not going to go broke over it either.
okay. We are going to, because we've talked about small publishers looking out for each other and helping each other out. We did get a question. So, with small publishers lifting each other up, do you also have issues of others in the industry bring you down? For example, failed Kickstarters. That is a relevant question. It's you that does happen, and it gives everybody who's a small publisher a black eye when Kickstarters fail. However, it depends entirely on why the Kickstarter failed. If it was done because it was an accident and things got out of control, frequently people will jump in and offer to help bail them out. If it's done maliciously or the people are shitty about communication, that still counts under PG-13. That's still okay. Uh, I can say shitty. Um, yeah, if somebody is malicious about it, then it gives everybody um, it gives us a black eye, and it makes consumers, rightfully so, apprehensive about taking a chance. I mean, I have I was the guy doing Zach's job sort of much more poorly than he's doing it now for Frog God years and years ago. I have a bunch of history of being part of Kickstarters and you know when we tried to figure it out, not having a capable person like Zach doing it. So I've got some history, but when SGP did their first Kickstarter, it's no history. It shows on Kickstarter, oh, this is your first project. And people have questions. It's like, well, what makes you think you know what you're doing? And I answer that by saying, I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, very with only a handful of exceptions, we are all sort of blazing a new trail here, especially with technology. I mean, how many of you people in the chat thought for GaryCon you were going to be listening to us two yahoos on your computer? None of you. And this got put together literally in a matter of days. So, you know, the biggest thing that people have got to grasp is work past your fear of failing,
Yeah.
because you're gonna fail. Something's gonna go wrong, and it's frequently outside of your concern. So you can either ride the wave and try to make the best of it, or don't start.
But part of the reason we want to do this is because we do believe that you can avoid a lot of those pitfalls by asking questions and feeling comfortable asking the questions. And um, I don't know anybody personally, at least not well, that would not give advice when asked because it's
I know somebody.
oh, okay, well, just not name him. I don't.
You people find me at a convention when we can actually get close and talk, and I will absolutely tell you the guy who would not help you.
Anyway, um, Skeeter's example aside, I recommend that asking people honestly gives you the best advice, and I'm always happy to share that kind of stuff because here I'll list my mistakes. I asked the wrong person about miniatures to put miniatures in a box. I asked the very wrong person how much it cost to do it because they had done it, but I didn't know they really didn't do it very well. They didn't have the any kind of cost control or understanding of it. And Skeeter knows who I work with on that. And the problem came back that I got the molding costs, and I got like, all right, my molding costs are $200, awesome. And then as I'm ready to go, I told them, okay, I need to produce 250 of these and 300 of these or whatever. And then I get a well, we need $3,500 to make the commercial molds.
Right.
That my face, they couldn't see it across the email, but I wish they could have.
Right. That
Right.
that becomes a whole like excuse me?
Yeah, no, and they they being Valiant Miniatures, they make construction molds and they spin cast of metals. They do it out of Madison, Wisconsin. They were great. They told me the things I should have known, but rather than thoroughly read their contracts and everything else, I was relying on somebody who was bad information. And how would I have known? I don't know if I could have got out of that, but I was trying to get the information. But asking two or three people usually fixes that.
Yeah.
And we have with social media now, especially because I was doing this in 2014, 2013, 2013. It wasn't as prevalent to have the conversations. There weren't as many groups about this. The Kickstarter was the Wild West. And it's become a lot more of a platform that is, how would you put it, matured. So the chances of you getting an idea and it going to $500,000 is less. And that's a good
Unless
thing. I
you're a
know,
board game.
yeah, I want to tell you, it sounds like that's a bad thing, but honestly, it's a good thing because I think that there comes a point when you can have success will ruin you. And
Mhm.
my first Kickstarter was close to that because it was just I could only do so many as a one guy,
Yeah.
and so I think that's important to keep in mind. So
Yeah. So we're going to segue really quickly. John Bingham had a question in Zoom, and I think most of the small press guys do their own distribution. I'd like to see more old school small press games in the game stores down here in New Zealand. Not sure how to even get the distribution chain set up though, other than having Jeff Delanian send me some stuff or me just publishing my own stuff. Any thoughts on distribution channels down this way? That is a question for every single publisher, not even small press publishers. Unless you are doing business with somebody like Diamond, who recently just shuttered their distribution for a while because of virus issues, and an announcement came out about that. Getting stuff from the United States to Australia or New Zealand is incredibly difficult. I know Frog God has had this issue. Uh, Years and years ago, Frog God Games had a book called Razor Coast that had a bunch of extra items in the Kickstarter, and that had to be shipped to a great fan in Australia, and the shipment disappeared. So it had to be reshipped, and it was in two boxes, and the shipping charge was the price of the
Horrendous.
pledge. I mean, it was ridiculous. Um, we don't have we don't have an answer to that right now, and that also applies to Europe. Um, it basically applies to everywhere outside of the U.S. The costs for shipping are exorbitant, and unfortunately, a lot of games get classified as luxury items, so they get hosed for that. Um, yeah, I can see in the chat, John is now saying they have Paizo and Wizard stuff. Um,
There's a couple options. They're not great, but print-on-demand books can be ordered like via Amazon through that channel, plus through the publisher. If you're in Australia and you want to order books from Frog God, the ones that we carry on print on demand, we can get to you as a distribution channel, but there's not a distributor that will do that. We use from the United States, we use ACD as a distributor. We don't use Diamond or Diamond Alliance because um, wrong decisions are bad. Because, for instance, they could take our stuff, then decide 6 months from now they don't want it anymore and send it back. And they basically, the cost of getting it back to us is the same price as destroying the product in the warehouse. And so it is a big risk for unproven products. So as a publisher, even as a small publisher, distribution is not always a good method. I mean, even if you're lucky enough to get into it, hey, ACD is going to pick me up. Hey, this is great. It's awesome until it doesn't work. And they're really picky. Like if you have to take, 100 copies of something and you just ship it, we'll say 12 of them get a dinged corner. They won't accept it. They won't accept anything besides a perfect copy of what they get. And those come out of our pocket, not out of
right.
theirs. And it could be damaged at their warehouse. We don't know.
Yeah,
And
the
I
the
understand why they do it for their own business purposes, because they do us basically a favor. They make money as a middleman, but they're doing us a favor as a small company. We don't have any leverage. And, so there's a lot of things that we don't control that adds to cost. And so distribution in general becomes fraught with peril, I guess is the way to put it in a nerd term.
yeah. Frog God Games has now, and for a couple of years, has a warehouse in the Pacific Northwest. I've been there. It's a real place. And there are pallets of books, and that is how a large portion of their distribution went for years. We would be out there. The amount of times I had bloody fingers from folding cardboard boxes or opening cardboard boxes and shipping books out. Some of you people have my blood. Um, it's it's ridiculous. I mean, if you get a batch of say 100 books that go out um, in the mail and they all get destroyed or they get dinged up through no fault of the publisher, it was just a shipping issue. You have to eat that book. Now, we were able to a lot of the books that got shipped to the warehouse got dinged up, and we were able to give those to my wife is a teacher, so I would take some of the dinged up books that couldn't be sold and donate them to the high school and middle school libraries. So yeah, the school where my wife works has an excellent gaming section, and it's for middle schoolers, so you don't want things to be pristine anyway, the little grubby beasts. So yeah, and that's kind of a universal thing with small publishing is you got to make things work. And if you get a batch of books that get dinged up that you can't sell, you need to use those as marketing tools. Get them out, get them doing something for you.
Yeah.
Everything is a tool. Everything.
We have a question here, Skeeter, from
Yeah.
Robert Nemeth that comes in our question and answer section. Thank you,
Oh
Robert.
boy. Okay.
As much as I love game stores, should small press publishers be focused on game stores or just do-it-yourself distribution through one bookshelf, Amazon, Kickstarter, etc.? I'm gonna be honest with you. Local game stores to you are probably your best bet for game stores to begin with. But to actually focus on getting into game stores it's It's risk. It the chances of it getting picked up. Like if you go to a lot, like I go to a lot of game stores when I travel just to see. Like because we have ACD, I want to see where our product sits, and a lot of times our product will sit in a corner on the bottom shelf behind 5,000 copies of Player's Handbook. Okay, for Wizards. So even though it's in the store, the chances of it getting sold are low because of the way it's actually merchandised. And we don't have a good plan yet. We're working on it to get POP material, which means point of purchase material. So you do bag stuffers or you do bookmarks to go with it, or you have on the glass door on the outside a Frog Out Games logo, for example. We don't have that yet. And all that's expensive and part of the process of getting even noticed. So unless you're local and can run games there for players, you're volunteering to run other games plus your own, so people can get it and see it, and then it's for sale there. Then I think game stores are useful for you early on. Otherwise, honestly, all those other options you mentioned are pretty good. Amazon's a great option that you can always point to where they can get stuff. And Amazon is pretty easy because, for instance, if you go through Lightning Source, not through drive-through, but through Lightning Source separately, I use Ingram Spark. They will automatically list it on Amazon for you to put it in their channel. And they take 10% or whatever, but it's a worthwhile way to get it. Like, so if you go to walmart.com and type in Whisper and Venom, it will show up. I don't know how many I've ever sold at Walmart, probably none, but it's there. So,
Yeah, and one of the things that you have to realize about um, stores and retail distribution is you will get you will get foot track you will get foot traffic from getting your book into a store. And not for nothing, the the absolute joy you will feel of
yeah.
walking into a bookstore and seeing your product on the shelf is worth something. Conversely, in the retail market, you have to sell that book to them for at least 50%, if not even less, because they have to turn a profit on it as well. So uh, that's the kind of information where you need to find somebody who does something similar to what you want to do. If you want to be an artist, find another artist who has done the distribution channel and ask them the good and the bad. If you want to write a book, like an actual paperback, you need to talk to somebody who has done that. If you want to make an RPG module, you can ask one of us. Um, a lot of
one of the biggest
people.
questions I get about RPG modules is because we're of the age, right? It's the gatefold part. It's like because it comes out in sections.
Yep.
How do you make that happen? That's a complicated question because you really cannot make that on print on demand. So you have to have a local print shop. You have to know how to ask them for what you're getting. Loose cover particle board or loose cover GSM in the size and lots of lingo, right? But they can usually help you if you walk in with one, right? And that's how I got mine made. But that's a question I get almost all the time because we all love that are of a certain age. We absolutely love to actually see that, but it becomes very difficult. If you want to produce 400 copies of that and have it available through a channel for retail, you can't very easily unless you know somebody or you're able to. I don't know people well enough to do it, but I know people who, like one of the guys I know, he plays in the game group with the president of ACD. He could get it done. Me? No, probably not. So
Yeah,
there are
and
ways, but they're very hard. Knowing people is
that's
part of it.
that's a fantastic segue into another little bit of advice and tidbit. Is even if you ask somebody a question about small publishing and they don't know the answer, they probably can either direct you to somebody who might know, or um, they know somebody else. Building that network of people you can ask. I have a ton of people that I know that I can ask specific questions of, and they will know because I have that network. For certain things that I have no idea about, I just start. I mean, I did this last week with Crypt of the Science Wizard. I had a question about something and I didn't know how to ask the person, and I figured it out and got in touch with them, and it was fantastic. It was crazy. There there are there are a ton of moments when you are making an art project, and I'm referencing RPGs as art projects because essentially they are a labor of love. If you are doing this to make money and quit your day job, do not do that. There, there are more famous bands than there are well-off RPG
There are
authors.
more astronauts than
Yeah,
there
there
are.
are more astronauts. There are more people who have been hit by lightning while riding a shark. I mean, it's just there are people who make a living at doing it, and we know some. And I think that's fantastic. But if you are starting out and that's where your bar is, you need to change where your bar
Yeah,
is.
and that's an unfortunate truth. One thing I want to address, Skeeter, and that was brought up was what about going digital products only initially? That is getting better all the time. That's actually a great way to go,
Yeah.
especially if you know the other tools to help push it, like if you run games at Fantasy Grounds, or you have a channel where you are talking about on video and you do not just your own stuff, but other things. You have all kinds of places you can be digitally that you can't be in person. And right now, there's a huge explosion in it for reasons that are terrible. But there's a giant interest as of the 2 weeks ago of how do we start doing things in digital spaces. We have all these tools to do this, and just now we're starting to approach it. So, like Frog God, this week we've taken it seriously to start putting together digital packages of stuff so it can be used in games, and approaching that with as much serious as we can. And because of where we are now, making an additional digital release and even doing it through drive-through, and which is the standard place to go. It's like you don't sell. I wouldn't sell anywhere if I wasn't selling on drive-through. I might not be exclusive, but that's a different topic. But I would sell on drive-through. I would make sure that I had the best PDF I could make, and that's just things like I make sure the internals you have links between, from the table of contents to where you go. I like seeing things like where you click on the art and the back page, it'll go to a page that's full screen art, so like a flashcard, show players at a table on a tablet. You take advantage of a couple of different things that are in PDFs that you can do that aren't always used. But if you make a really slick digital product that is available and you can sell it, and you let people, the nice thing is review copies and everything else like that, they don't cost you anything. So you can pass it out to everybody anywhere and let them see it, knowing that, hey, I may make $200 on this, but this lets people know that I take it seriously. And digital only is a great way to do that, that I think wasn't that great until a couple of years ago, and really it's going to
Yeah.
be really starting now, honestly.
Yeah, there are no, Zach, you have a question from Luke
Oh,
Harmon in here that you need to address because that
okay.
one's directed to you.
I will address that. You said going about the box set yourself was a mistake, but ideally, how many people should you have involved? How many people did you have to get involved to produce? If you could do one like a step by step. Okay, well, um, we made Swords and Wizard box set at Frog God Games, and that involves really four of us, and that includes Matt with the writing from the original Swords and Wizardry plus the extras. Four people is what we needed to do it in a way that didn't kill us. I didn't know what I was doing, which is really helpful. One, because I was like, well, I'm gonna get it done. I don't care how hard I work. And my wife can attest. She's in the chat. I spent 6 months of doing nothing but that project, full on, and it was too much. But if you had four people, you had someone who was primarily the author, you had an editor, you had someone who's a designer who could prepare your. They didn't do your art necessarily, but prepare your art, prepare your cartography, and prepare your book to be laid down. And then finally, you had an artist that was working on that could do maps as well. That would be enough to actually do a project.
Yeah, it depends on what your skill set is. I mean, if you are if you are primarily an artist and understand layout, and you decide you've got some cool art and you want to write a story for it, you could probably do the entire thing on your own. Um, if you are an author, and I use that term extremely loosely when talking about myself, um, I can barely do anything in Photoshop. So all of the art that I had to do, or all of the art for my stuff, all of the layout, the cover layout, all of that had to be farmed out to somebody else. I did one of the maps in my book, and then I had our buddy Ian McGarty do the other map because it looked better. It looked like an old school map, and that's what I wanted. So it really depends on your skill set, how much money you have available, and how much you want to shoulder in the process. Because the last thing you want to do is go through all the stress of getting a product out and you look at it when you're done and go, that's ugly. You don't want to do that. That will make you never do it again. And I say that because I went through that. I went through that. I was not happy with a milestone when I did my book, and I almost did not complete it and just said, forget it. But anyway,
I want to add two things real quick. Go back. Yeah, my wife made a clarification. She's Jen, by the way, in the chat, making sure everything's organized, so you can see that we're still married after all this. No, she did say, yeah, I did hire different people who went to the box. So it wasn't just Zach doing the art or Zach doing the miniatures or Zach making the dice. It was Zach organizing all those things and putting them together. I did do the writing and the editing and stuff like that, though. However, that's true. I did put them all together, but that's to make it clearer. I wasn't a one-man operation from beginning to end. No one can do that, I don't think. Now,
not well.
the other thing I want to bring up is talking. Somebody asked a question about. Well, first of all, going back one more on that, zines. Those are really cool to do right now. Those are awesome. A couple of you guys have mentioned you guys to do those.
They are fantastic.
I think those are great. Those are a great way to show what you can do, what you're interested in, and they fill a niche without being they're an easy buy, and they're an easy way for people to go and introduce. I just got Levi Coombs's phylactery today or yesterday, and it's great. And I have got other ones that are great. I think zines are awesome, and that's one thing I wanted to bring up. That you guys said, if you're doing a zine, awesome. I think you should. I think it's a great way to get into it.
Thank you for doing that. I know this has been kind of a movement lately to get in on this, but this is literally the best way to start getting into RPGs. Do a zine, do something you're passionate about. It doesn't have to be WotC quality. It just has to be authentic. It's very punk rock and it's very cool. So,
and I think the authentic parts, if you're this far along and if you're talking to us or you're making a zine already and you have it on Kickstarter, you got the authentic part down. And that's the part that counts as zines. I have another question about Fantasy Grounds Roll20. Yes, we have stuff from Frog God going on there. And it takes a different skill set than it does just to make an adventure. I recommend it. It's more important, I think, that as a small publisher that you know how to run it than it is how you package it, because you can hire somebody for a percentage, for example, for 15% of however many sell on their marketplace at Fantasy Grounds. You can hire someone to do the conversion.
I got to cut you off there for a minute, Zach. We have a viewer in our Twitch stream going by the name of GaryCon. Luke is in the Twitch stream right now.
Hi, Luke.
So thank you, Luke.
Couldn't see you in person. Good to see you here.
Very, very happy to see you.
That's Gygax, right? That's Luke Gygax, not someone.
I'm not sure of that at all.
Okay, I was making sure because he has a lot of imposters.
Yeah. Yeah. The funny side story about Luke, and I think I've mentioned this before on our Goddammit Zach podcast, when I was a teenager and I would read Dragon magazine, there were always these stories about Gary's home game, and he used to always talk about Ernie and Luke playing in there, and I always thought, man, it would be so cool to be Luke. And then many years later, I come to GaryCon for the first time, and I'm helping Zach set up the booth, and we're doing all this stuff, and this giant man comes by and puts his hand on my shoulder and is just like, hey, thanks, Skeeter. Thanks, Zach. We're glad you're here. All this stuff. and it was Luke, and he introduced myself to me, and I peed a little, and it was a big moment for me that I actually got to meet this guy. So I like to tease him about that all the time.
Yeah, that's one of the few things I brought with me to Frog Guys. I had a booth at GaryCon. Thank you, Lloyd Metcalf. So,
Yeah. So
I guess the one thing I will mention, cons, if I don't know how much that's going to change, like with the current situation and when that kind of recovers or is different, but cons were great for me to meet people face to face, to find people who are helpful to getting things done. I met Lloyd Metcalf because they ran out of tables at breakfast at GaryCon 4. And I met him. I gave him a little metal gnome, and he contacted me 2 weeks later, and he wound up doing all the art in Whisper and Venom, all but the cover. And that was Jeff D. All the art, all the interior art was Lloyd Metcalf, and he did a great job. He didn't value his art enough. I actually had to argue with him to pay him more. But I met him there. And without having met him there, I would never have got that finished, or I would never got the promotion from when I got a promotion from Jim Ward saying you should buy this Kickstarter. I about fainted, right? And meeting people in person is a huge help. Now that is changing. Once again, I'm starting to show my age here, but that's 7 years ago.
right.
I think a lot of the FaceTime you get in social media, the FaceTime helps a lot too. You just ordered it from Walmart. Well, thank you, Perry.
Nice.
Just ordered it from Walmart.ca.
Yeah. There were, let's see, at North Texas several years ago, I was having lunch with Chuck Wright, who does the layout for Frog God Games. And we were just hanging out. No, that is not stolen. That was given. And you know that, Luke. You were at that lunch where that was given to me.
Oh, is Luke accusing you of?
Yes, he's accusing me of stealing this actual
I'm going to scratch his name
GaryCon
off my thing back
artifact.
He's no good.
Yeah, so we're having lunch, and Jim Ward just came by, and I said, "Hey, man, come sit down and have lunch with us," and he did. It was amazing, and we got to spend like an hour just talking to him. So people are very approachable at cons unless they are super busy, and you have to. Yeah, Luke is giving me a ration now. I take back every nice thing I just said. Um, so yeah, please feel like people are approachable. Except for one or two cases, every time I've talked to somebody at a convention, it's been fantastic. It really is a family environment, and the very specific one or two people that I don't like. There's reasons. So
I'm sorry, I'm going to repeat this. If you're not in the chat for Twitch, Luke just says SGP stands for Skim GaryCon Posters. It's true.
well,
I was there.
I'm coming back next year because I'm gonna get the Glacial Rift of the Frost Giant Jarl. There is a huge poster of that. That one's coming home with me. So anyway, now that this has been completely derailed and you guys are now questioning my moral fiber.
Well, Luke derailed it, so I think it's actually fair though. Having Luke derail, it's okay. It is.
Yeah, fair. I mean, if I'm gonna get shit from somebody, it should. I'll give him a pass because there's been some difficulty with GaryCon. That's it, and the fact that he's got the nuclear codes. Actually, I would like to take this second for anybody who's in any of the chats to actually say thank you to Luke. He's in the military taking care of people in California right now. So thank you, Luke.
Yes, thank you, Luke.
You do a lot, and this has been a kind of a bummer, but thank you very much for everything you're doing right now.
You were asked a question or mentioned, is this a good time for that strategic F-bomb?
No. Nope. Nope. I'm going to hold on to that one.
We have another thank you to Luke for both your in and out of the con work. And so,
I would very much like to say how Luke left that lunch where I got the poster. I will keep that in my heart forever when he gave me the double bird
dual,
salute.
double salute, right?
Yep, that was a double salute. That
Yeah,
was great.
you deserved it too.
I I did very much.
It was
Okay,
like this kind of.
yeah, only not those fingers. Um, so let's get back on track with the small publisher
Yeah,
stuff. We segued into telling stories, and that's a whole
they're
different
funny
show.
stories. No,
Yeah,
so
please watch Goddamn It Zach on on
find out
Facebook or
really worthless
YouTube or
information
whatever.
about things you may not care about.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, but um, no, and just so everybody knows, the small publisher love is legitimate. I have a list of some people. I was told not to list anybody and thank them, but I'm gonna do it anyway because I screw everything up. Levi Combs, Planet X. Levi is a media wonderkind. He's got like 47 different social media uh, personalities, and he's just awesome. He did the phylactery zine. He did an occurrence at Howling Crater. He did
My bride.
what the Jungle Tomb of the Mummy Bride. What was the one for Hag's Jaw? He's got too many words. It's like he went to the Jeff Talanian school of titles. It is too many words. But yeah, Planet X Games, Levi Combs, he's our buddy. Jason Gardner and Ian McGarty from Silver Boulets. That one's for Tim Kask. I pronounced it correctly. Um, those guys have done a ton of work in RPGs. Ian did the maps for me. I had him do a read through for Crypt. Jason gave me a ton of useful uh, tips and ideas. Jim Wampler from Mud Puppy Games, my sensei. Thank you, sir. You are the science wizard. Keelan Halverson. I almost couldn't get that one out. Keelan Halverson,
Wonky.
Wonky. Great, great artist. He was one of the people that was most affected by the seminar at North Texas. He really dove in and took the chance to do that. So this actually works. Um, I'm not going to do everybody else. I'm done. No, it's like Alex and Alyssa and Jack and
It's everybody we know.
yeah, it's
So,
basically a huge thank you to everybody who we know and goes to conventions. Thank you.
which brings me to another point about so you mentioned Alyssa. Alyssa and another gentleman named Kafir, that he goes by Cave Geek Art. They do their art and they make their product live on Twitch, which is really interesting. If you are a cartographer, for instance, you want to make some money at this, you want to see it done. I know Lloyd's actually, I think, doing this tomorrow on a stream, where he's going to do his art and talk about his job in RPGs. Or he just did it now. Well, then you missed it. But he could do it again. No, but it literally is a time to see someone actually doing the creating and talking. I know Alyssa, she'll have a whiskey or so and have a good old time. But Kafir will actually do his maps, and he's an artist, and he makes these beautiful maps on leather. Of I guess you got one in the mail for Numenor. And he'll do that live online too, so you can see other professionals work and interact with them using tools that exist that are really outside of cons. My wife watches Alicia's stream, and she doesn't even like maps, or doesn't like fancy cartography much. She loves Alyssa and loves her maps, but doesn't. That's not her thing normally. But it's like a social group too, so I recommend that as well.
I had another plan to thank the GaryCon staff of everybody that has worked so hard to get this virtual convention going because the other one didn't happen because of bugs. So the only two people I'm going to thank actually are Caroline and Luke. And I'm just going to generally thank everybody else who was involved because I know it was a ton of people.
Well, the Wizards of the Couch people for actually hosting this on a Twitch stream.
Yes, these guys. Wait a minute. It takes me a minute to do everything. Oh, where? There it is. Took me a minute. I am not skilled.
Is this going up on Twitch?
Yes. Yeah, you
Okay,
can't
so
see it.
yeah, you can't see it, so we don't know what you're doing. He's putting a picture up on Twitch, everybody. You could go there and see it.
Yeah, yeah. Here on Twitch, uh, you can see Wizards of the Couch. They're a great batch of reprobates. Um, and please, if you ever get the opportunity to see Brian Berg at a convention, he usually is running a booth. Uh, his company is Total Party Kill Games. Please tell him about your character. He loves to hear those stories.
He's a great guy.
He is.
One of my favorite people. And so, um, let's see here. Do we have any more questions that have gone by?
Unhappy Pizza has an excellent question.
Okay.
For designers and artists who are interested in helping writers but maybe have less RPG specific history, is there a good way to get connected with like minded people? No. I honestly don't know, besides doing just going through Facebook groups and being vocal about it. Um, it conventions conventions are really great for that purpose. You can network, you can bump into people, you can talk to them. Um, this is really a bad time for a lot of those things, and there's going to be a lot of fallout because of the virus, and conventions are having some trouble right now. So yeah, whatever social media, if you're on Instagram, if you're an artist on Instagram, put some stuff up with a watermark so people can't steal it and say, "Hey, I'm looking for somebody to write a story to go with my art."
Mr.
Or
Bingham made a point that as an artist, he kind of got started out using the forums as an activity. And the forums are not as active now, but the people who are there are serious. So I think
right,
that's.
right,
I think another one is to get into games online, because I find a lot of the designers I know play in online games that have open seats on Fantasy Grounds and Roll20, and you can meet people you don't expect there. Also, you meet people who could become customers or fellow travelers. I mean, once you're at a certain point, you're playing Roll20 online, you're serious about the hobby, and you buy things online and everything else. So you're meeting people who are, if anything, a representative of your customer base, which is always valuable too.
right. And
Hey, it's Heath from Australia. Good day, all. He says, "Hello, Heath.
Heath, what's happening, big guy?
Nights and days, I know it."
Um, yeah, never feel weird about going to a publisher's like Facebook page or their forums and hanging out and trying to get a feel of the vibe. Like if you draw a certain way that is very uh, typical fantasy, get into the WotC forums or get into the Paizo forums or something where you think your art is similar enough, and just try to do some networking. If you've got some crazy line art and it fits in with DCC, Mutant Crawl Classics, or Dungeon Crawl Classics, any of that stuff, get involved in that group. Um, don't be obnoxious. I mean, that only works for me and Zach.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, that's how Frog God and Necromancer Games back in the day got a bunch of the talent that was there. I mean, that is literally how I got in Necromancer Games, was off of the forums. Casey didn't want to do the math and the rules for traps, and he
As
asked me
Casey
if I would do
Christopherson
it.
is the art
Casey
director.
Christopherson, the art director for Frog God Games, he didn't want to do the game mechanics part, and I was like, okay, here, I'll nerd out and I'll do that part, and that just built into me becoming a writer. It was crazy. Um, it's basically the same thing as when people tell you if you want to work for a big corporation, do anything you can to get your foot in the door.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like for conventions, Lloyd just mentioned this in the chat. Um, he did some art for GaryCon, and now he's on staff, and he is a well-established RPG, at least in our genre, artist. I mean, it happens. You start from very humble beginnings, and you, I mean, however far you want to go is how far you're going to go.
And it, a lot of it is, it's on the Maslow pyramid of needs. This is the top part of the pyramid. This is, this is self-actualization stuff, and it is great. And the nice thing is with the small press publishing is you can do a lot of that and have a regular life. Knowing you can publish one thing a year, you can do absolutely everything you can to make it the best it can be proud of it, and then still be able to do your life. Whereas I think back before, it would take your life over. The guys who did things like the early stuff that like before Iron Crown Enterprises and the smaller RPG publishers at the time, they had to make a real risk to even try to do this in a way that was possible. But now,
Right.
because we have all the tools we've got, we get to participate and do the things we want to do and not ruin ourselves in the process. And so I think it's really a great time.
Well, yeah, I mean, so Zach and I are pretty based in old school, the older editions of the game. I mean, he's the COO of a company that has that as their tagline. Yeah. So, so for the people of a certain vintage that remember, the original modules, they looked like shit
Oh yeah,
compared to what we have now. I mean, they were literally like somebody put a typewriter.
we love them, and they aren't as great as we remember.
Yeah,
However,
no, I look
they're
at them
they're
now and I'm like, oh my God. But that point where that stuff all started happening is where zines are now. But
right,
zines have more quality and more tools. They can look more professional. But it's the people, that's the authenticity that I was talking about before. People are having passion and they're doing these passion projects, and that's going to make RPGs better because when somebody up in Hasbro, Kurt, sees these people that are putting these zines out, they're going to get plucked. There's also the whole Wizards of the Coast and Chaosium have their like their DM's Guild stuff, and Chaosium has the Miskatonic University, where you can use their IP and sell things through their distribution. Most of it's digital products, but yeah, for you know, you split the costs with them, but you get to use all this cool stuff. And people I know have been picked up by WotC and now work on D&D because of the efforts they've done in small publishing and doing everything on their own. So it can happen. Again, don't plan on it, but it
and
can
also
happen.
understand now. I'm not going to give away any state secrets here, but a beginning designer at the Wizards of the Coast, they have to bike to work. They aren't making a lot of money. I know Skeeter at one point had asked about Paizo. We won't disclose how much it was, but it was a lot less than he was making at the time.
Yeah, I mean, I I have a day job that pays me ridiculously well. I'm very happy. I hate my day job, but I'm very happy that I have it because it allows me to go to conventions and it allows me to foot the bill for my passion projects and then hopefully recover some costs later. Um, the Savage Worlds has a community program. Thank you, Phantom Jen.
I didn't know that either. I just typed in.
Um, but yeah, these there are there are opportunities out there, um, because the tools are available. I mean, yeah, it's expensive to get the Adobe suite of products so you can have a kick-ass looking book. But if you have the skills, you can also find the open source versions of those and use them. It may be a little bit more difficult, but it's out there. It can be done. I
This is
cannot
where he and I disagree.
emphasize enough, it takes work. It takes a lot of work. And there are times, I know I had it, when I was like, I don't want to do this anymore at all. I will say one of my moments. I went to Gen Con 50 with my wife. And the only reason I went is because it was the 50th anniversary. I thought that was going to be a big deal. I was going to leave RPGs. I didn't want to do it anymore. I was very burnt out and I was very depressed about the whole thing and just was going to cash it in. And there were some things that happened at Gen Con and the historical display they set up in Lucas Oil Stadium that completely changed my mind. So,
He saw his copy of his adventure he wrote in the Gen Con Museum.
well, I partially wrote it.
Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah. No, it was Bard's Gate. I mean, that book took a lot out of me and I didn't feel like I wanted to do it anymore. But then I got to see that book in there next to,
And
you know,
I think
Gygax, Arneson.
as a small press publisher, you will find that you'll have a random message from somebody saying, I bought your game 3 years ago and we played it and it was great. And nothing feels better, honestly, and makes it feel like it's all worth it than to design something that somebody else has played at a table and enjoyed with their friends. Because you feel like what you've actually achieved is that. And so all the work I do with Frog God, and I do a lot of work for Frog God, and a lot of books from Frog, but when I hear from somebody that, hey, we played we just got finished playing, something in the Lost Land setting, and it was really great. Or what, other people that I oversee at Frog God are working on with World Anvil and other things online. It's helping us, or we're changing the way we play our game. That feels good, and that is
Yeah.
worth more than anything else. And so I encourage all of you, when you make this, have part of your goal be you want to see it played and you want to see it enjoyed, because that is really the reward you should be looking for. Period. Um,
There there have been a couple of opportunities where I've gotten to donate Crypt of the Science Wizard to some charitable events. There was an outward bound thing for some vets, and I heard about it through some other people, and I contacted them, and they were doing role playing games. So I sent them a bunch of copies of that, and I got word back that they really just enjoyed it, made it a great thing. So when you do projects and you create a book, besides the fact that you just like look over and go, "Holy smokes, my name is on a book on a shelf. It's an actual physical D&D product." You also reach a bunch of people that you don't know about right off the bat. And I mean, Frog God Games is an excellent example. Those books are all over the world. And I've had people recognize me at conventions going, "Oh, you're Skeeter Green. I've seen your name in a book from Frog God Games." It's like, well, thank you.
Roll.
So, it's having somebody say, "Hey, man, I like what you do," that's what can get you through the times where you're looking at it going, "Wow, I made a book and it cost me to make this book." You got to figure out what's going to keep you going.
So, Skeeter, we're going to run out of time real quick. Is there any other questions from the audience that we want to address? Anybody have any last minute stuff before we do kind of close it up? We're getting a 10-minute
Uh
warning here from the boss.
oh yeah, well, 10-minute warning, whatever. Oh,
One
yeah, I
thing I
probably
want to
should pay
address.
attention to that.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm here for.
Um,
He's in the other room.
yeah. Um, the biggest thing I can say to anyone is don't be afraid to ask people questions or just tell somebody. Matt Finch used to love the story of the first time I met Jeff D and asked him to sign my Deities and Demigods book. So I like walked up to the guy and I just was bowing, please sign my book. Please, please, I'm not worthy. It was the whole thing. And now it's like people ask me to sign a book and I'm like, are you kidding? Is this a joke? Are you punking me? So uh, what goes around comes around. If you are decent to people and try to elevate them when you're in a position to do it, do it. You know.
We have a question. I have a question about printing in China and the U.S. And the question directly is it better cost-wise dealing with printers in China instead of printers in the U.S., Canada? I can be honest with you, it's not even a ballpark. Printing in the U.S. is way expensive. Printing in Canada is very expensive unless you're doing very large print runs. So I'll just be honest, a print run of a 500-page book is going to be 2/3 cheaper out of China than it is out of the U.S. Now, for a 10,000 book run, they start coming closer together in price because you're getting you're starting to build up with the common scale. But there's no comparison. There's no comparison in price, and it's unfortunate because I'd like to have. We'd be willing to pay Frog God an extra 20% to print in the U.S. or Canada if we could, but we can't. They can't even meet that, and so that's why we do what we do through the printer in Hong Kong. And Regent's great. We use Regent right out of Hong Kong. They're awesome. Their reps are incredibly professional. The owner's a great guy. They give us everything we need, and so I have no complaints about how they do it. But we'd love to be able to print here, and we cannot, not for that kind of price, and that kind of books we make.
Okay, so I was ordered by a minion of Frog God Games to remind Zach to say what's going on at Frog God Games.
We have a sale right now. It's a GaryCon sale, 50% off of everything. We sell, period, at our website. It's 50% off. And I'm waiting for the boss in the other room to send me the link so we can share it for the actual coupon code.
Yeah, so I'm scrolling through and showing off your website
Nice.
on that. And
And
now
so that's everything. I mean, that's even the newest stuff. And so if you were thinking about picking up a copy of Sea King's